Hello everyone, and I'm back after 2 weeks. Reason being that I haven't didn't do a video last week was because I didn't have any new books. Um, but now with convergence over, it's back to business as usual. I went to shop yesterday with the bad news that this past week their exchange rate went from 16 to 17 pesos per dollar. So now books are beginning to cost a little bit more. But unfortunately, that's the reality of economics. This past week, the official exchange rate went really high. I think on Friday it closed at 16. So the ship has to up the their exchange rate so that they could cover all other costs, shipping and the like. So I hope that soon things will go down and settle, because at some point this thing's gonna blow and it's gonna affect the entire economy because of all the imported goods that we get, both finished products as well as you know raw material that's needed for production, and the dollar being the main commercial currency, it's gonna start affecting the economy. So, but yeah, that's the realities of the world. So before we get to the books, a few highlights from this week, this past week. So on Thursday, we had the end of the Flash and Arrow, so we're like maybe 2 to 3 weeks late. Um, I mean, the season started with a week off between the original broadcast in the States, before they came here. Then after Christmas, there were some weeks where they took extra breaks. So from being 1 week apart, we were like 2 or 3 weeks behind. Finally, you know, 2 or 3 weeks after both Arrow and The Flash ended, and me being exposed to spoilers because the season didn't end until, like I said, Thursday. Uh, well, I mean, I kind of knew what was going to happen in some, because I saw like little clips on YouTube. But still watching the episodes was fun, and there were things that I didn't see. So I really liked the way the Flash ended. I mean, with a little with the cliffhanger, but it also left me with a big question, which is, Eddie Thawne killed himself so that Eobard wouldn't be born. Okay, so wouldn't that actually change the timeline again? I mean, because the timeline in which the Flash happened, despite that little blip there somewhere around episode 20 something, uh, was all caused by Thong going back in time and killing Barry's mom. So now that he doesn't exist and was wiped out from existence, shouldn't things have changed? Because none of that even actually happened. Uh, so yeah, that's the thing with a character like the Flash who can travel through time. One little thing one little event could alter history. So that's a big question for next season. So it's gonna have a really interesting beginning. Unlike Arrow, which didn't have a clean ending thus far, of course, it's gotta come back. So maybe it won't be Arrow anymore, it might be Green Arrow. It might actually take the official name. But one thing actually happened that I was hoping for 3 years to come to pass, and that's Thea Queen becoming Speedy officially as a masked hero. Especially with, I mean, it was teased. I mean, Speedy was her, nickname, and it was teased since episode one. Uh, so and with this season in particular, I thought she's gotta become Speedy. She does become at the end in the final episode, and that got my imagination going because if CBS finally decides to loosen up, I mean they're saying they won't have Supergirl crossover with the CW shows because they're a different network, but actually CBS co-owns the CW with Warner, so it's not like they're going to cross over with NBC or ABC or Fox. I mean, it's their sister network. If they finally loosen up a bit, I would love to see a Supergirl Speedy team up. In my head, it seems like the most awesome team up ever. But that's just me and my wishful thinking. So let's move on to what's not wishful thinking and to see what is and not what could or could not be. So first off, Action Comics number 41, the first issue with the Truth storyline. Now, this isn't your traditional crossover. It's more, and it is like I expected it to be, a sort of new status quo. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is like the big, I don't know, big. I wouldn't call it big story for the Superman books, but this is the new status quo, and so everything in this new status quo has to reflect itself in the other Superman books. It's clear that it's all connected, despite the fact that we have like little footnotes asking readers to, check Superman 41 for this or check Superman 42 for that. Which, by the way, it's kind of weird because Superman 41 doesn't come out until like in 3 weeks, and Superman number 42 doesn't come out until like next month, and they're still like, referencing stuff that hasn't even happened yet. But at the same time, it sort of happened before this issue, so it's like it's really out of order. I mean, I'm getting that impression that each book tells its own story, but it's all connected into like the bigger picture. But it's like, something happened here that you haven't seen yet, but you will see in a different book that comes out in 3 weeks or in, I don't know, 6 weeks or whatever. It's just a weird way for DC to actually handle this story because it hasn't happened yet, because they're events that sort of happen but we won't see them happen until like like I said, in the future. So it's weird. It's like when they did with Doomed, they referenced some event that supposedly was going to be shown in a different book and that it's supposed to have happened before, but they never really showed it, they just mentioned it. So I think, that might be a problem though, if they reference stuff, but then we never actually see it. That's, I think the Superman office needs to really start coordinating things, and they have to change the schedule of the books coming out. Instead of Action Comics coming out first, maybe they should switch the schedule and have Superman come first and then Action Comics, so that you have a clearer reading order for the storylines. I mean, back in the 90s, when Superman, the Superman universe, the Superman books were almost treated like weeklies. They had these little triangles there that told you the reading order of the books. Despite the fact that each book would have their own storyline, they told you where they fit in the larger picture. And you actually had a good reading order. You could read either each book independently, or get all these other books and have a much bigger picture. But it was all orderly. Here, so far, it seems like it's pretty darn messy, having things jumping up. So this issue picks up from its 8-page preview. Superman is walking through Alaska. People of course already know his um, secret identity. In the preview for Action Comics, he started to lose his powers, and the Fortress didn't recognize him. Something's wrong with his DNA, it seems. So he lost his costume, uh, and now he's with minimum power. Everybody knows him. We get some things where people just telling Superman to dirty alien, get off our planet, whatever. Until he comes to Metropolis, and his neighborhood actually or most of the people in his neighborhood support Superman. Uh, and I think the thing that links Superman with what actually might make it into an actual crossover is the fact that there's this mysterious cop working for somebody else, and some beasts, some of them that did show up in that preview, in that 8-page story, sneak peek story. But yeah, I mean, I actually, but I think, it's a pretty good read. I think if it's handled right, at least each book individually is handled right. I think the crossover thing might not be too much of a problem, because basically just the new status quo. But how long will truth last, and how much of the status quo change will stick? Because there are things that are catalysts for this new status quo that you can't take back, that they can't take back. Once Lewis revealed his identity, you can't really put that back. I mean, you need to have time travel, I guess, just to avoid Lewis from ever revealing Superman's identity to the world. Uh, that's the only way, or a mass hypnosis, or mass brainwashing, or whatever, magic to wipe everything out. So, that's not the way DC does things, anyways. But as far as I know. But yeah, it's an interesting time to be reading Superman. Uh, Next up, we'll enter number 41. New team. It's got, I really like the art by Patrick Searcher. The story this is basically just set up for this 3-issue arc. Nothing really, well, at least Well, it has three things. It's got a few things going for it. This book. First off, it seems like the last arc never happened. There's no reference to it. It's sort of continues where Jeff Lemire left off, I guess. Um, Henry Five is back, Emiko is back, and seems to have a much more active role now in the life of Green Arrow. Uh, all of the stuff from the previous arc is gone. Oliver Queen has his, you know, company again. The whole other stuff that was set up there from the previous. I mean, there's nothing. There's no mention of anything from the last arc, and it shows that despite this being a DC universe where they said DC said story over continuity, but it's clear that this post convergence change, it's still the same DC universe. It's still the same post Flashpoint reality. Everything is connected. Again, you get editorial footnotes saying that one element of the story is also explored in the upcoming Batman number 41. So everything, it's even much more interconnected than it was before Convergence. There was some interconnectedness, but it's clearer now. I mean, the fact that something in Green Arrow will also play a role in Batman shows you that it's all the same universe, despite the fact that it's a much more diverse line. You got different writers, different art styles, different variety of of diverse characters, but it's all still very much linked together. So like I said, not much really happens except we get introduced to a new villain. Uh, he's been kidnapping people, killing them. We don't even know what his motives are. Uh, Oliver is sort of, we're seeing just like the everyday stuff happening, until like the end where he once again goes back into being Green Arrow as he, you know, is brought in to investigate these disappearances because it seems that in the poor area of Seattle, these missing people have, you know, being, people having disappearing for a while now. Nobody really pays attention. So, Green Arrow decides to investigate what's going on. And that's pretty much it. Uh, so I'm pretty sure it's three issues. So this is like just set up. So I think things might actually start picking up next month, like with the next issue. Green Lantern number 41, the first issue with the Renegade Green Lantern. Interesting thing about Green Lantern. So now Hal doesn't have the ring. He's got this gauntlet. He is, of course, a renegade now. And he's actually riding on a ship that has an IA. Now that's the interesting part because it sort of reminded me of that of the last Green Lantern animated series they did, right after the movie, where it's Hal and Kilowog in this ship with an IA, and again now he's in a ship with an IA that he took. If you read the preview, that sneak peek, uh, he took from some um, pirates. I think say space pirates, or I think that's a good way to put them. Some bad people. He stole their ship. Um, he rescues this nobleman from this planet where he was forced to fight for money. Uh, he takes one of the bad guys with him as well. Um, and then he decides to take him to go to Mogo, but where the Green Lanterns HQ is, now that Oa doesn't exist anymore. Finds out that, well, there is no Mogo and the entire Green Lantern Corps has disappeared. So of course this ties into the new Green Lantern uh, spin-off book. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was okay. Justice League number 41, $4.99 for this book. It's got a nice cover. By the way, Action Comics and Green Arrow and the Green Lantern are actually $3.99 books, and they don't have the nice cover like Justice League does. 48 pages, double-sized, first part of the Darkseid War. So in each number, in the Divergence, Free Comic Book Day, and Justice League number 40, we got the prelude to this, and you could say this is like the least. This book doesn't really even. It's a very accessible book. While the other same as Green Arrow, actually, I could say, because both Action and Green Lantern sort of continue from where the sneak peeks left off. Uh, Green Arrow doesn't do that. It's like uh, it's doesn't pick up from where that left off. It's just a new story. With this being the first part of the story, and you had, like I said, the two preludes. This is also very accessible. You don't really need to have read Justice League number 40 or Divergence to get what's going on here, because characters that actually appeared in those two issues show up, but they're pretty much being explained. You don't really need to know what went before. It's just as a book, it's very accessible. So we have one of the Furies and an assassin from Apocalypse, Lashina, and another guy from assassin from Apocalypse, looking for this woman, Myrna Black. So the issue opens with them looking into a woman named Myrna Black, but that's not who she is. Anyways, they kill her and her husband. The Justice League are brought in because of the um, Apocalypse connection, the boom tube, which is sensed by uh, Cyborg, brought them there as well. So they start investigating the murder of that woman, while we're introduced to the new version of um, Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle, scot-free. So in issue number 40, we kind of got his origin story, but again here it's being retold in case people are actually picking up this issue and didn't pick up any of the other books as well. Uh, until finally at the end Grail shows up. That's Darkseid's daughter. She pretty much deals with the Justice League. Uh, Scott, is facing Darkseid because he sort of went uh, into he was in Apocalypse looking for something. I don't know what. Uh, so before Darkseid kind of kills him or does whatever, he escapes and is brought into the presence of Myrna Black, who shows up at the very end of the issue. So it's a very with this first issue you really get this huge scope as well. Yeah, the Ultraman also shows up, and both Ultraman and Superwoman are like freaked out because they feel that that destroyer, the creature that destroyed Earth 3, is now in this Earth, and they're just scared to death as well. So you could tell that, I mean, in this issue, in this one issue, uh, you see Grail really, taking down the Justice League, and then we also learned that Lex's sister Lena is also working as an agent for Darkseid, and actually shoots Lex right in the back, which, I mean, this is gonna be a big epic story, and it's gonna just stay in this one book. I feel that Geoff Johns is back to his old writing self. Um, I mean, because with all the other stuff he's doing, just focusing on this one book, uh, you know, it lightened up his load as a writer. And I mean, he keeps writing a book while he does all the other TV and movie stuff. It's gonna be a fun Justice League story. This is totally gonna be a story that's Justice League worthy. Finally, the art by Fabak is just great. I can't wait for the next issue. Finally, I end with this. Yes, Wonder Woman Annual number 1. So this concludes the first story arc by the Finches. So there was like this one subplot dealing with with these creatures that were killing people, sinking cities, and pretty much feeding on these people. We learn and feeding on the people, on people or people. We learn that they are aliens that were stranded on Earth for millions of years. But at the end of the sorry, oops. Yeah, so there are aliens that were stranded for millions of years, and they were just waking up from this sort of hibernation when Wonder Woman sent Firstborn down back to the pit he came from. So in the first four pages, this whole subplot gets resolved. They decide to help these aliens rebuild their ship and go back to their planet. and that's how that subplot ended. The rest of the issue, uh, or the rest of the issues is just Wonder Woman fighting Donna Troy and defeating her. Uh, the woman, the Amazon, this old woman that created uh, Donna Troy to be the perfect Amazon, which she wasn't, and it was proven by Wonder Woman. But this old woman is all Amazon, gets killed off as well. So she's kind of angry at Wonder Woman and at Hippolyta for some reason, which, by the way, the reason we learn in the backup, where we get her origin. Um, it's actually done by Goran Zutska, who is one of the artists that worked in the Azarella run. So we learned that this woman was actually somewhat Hippolyta's lover, girlfriend. Uh, and when the Spartans came to Proteus Island, the general poisoned Hippolyta's mother. She became queen. This woman, this Amazon, kind of got mad, particularly when got sort of mad. This became, in saving Hippolyta from an attack by an unknown assailant. Here, she saves her. This is her before she became old. She becomes old. When she grabbed the this sort of light weapon lightning thing, gets it and ages very very fast. And not, I mean, she was angry because man deceived the queen, Hippolyta's mother, and with her death, she lost her lover to duty, and when Zeus came down and deceived Hippolyta and gave us Wonder Woman, she was just really really angry at the fact that Hippolyta's mom, Hippolyta herself, and now Wonder Woman are sort of uh, they're sort of have relationships, or have a relations with man and man's world, and she feels that's their undoing, and that would be the Amazon's undoing. So I think the backup was a much more interesting story. I felt that the main story, the one that concludes the first arc, it did feel padded with the fight. Somehow you just keep getting like some action, some big panels at times, but the fact that you have one element resolved really quickly, and then you spend the rest of the issue in a fight scene, and then you have like a few pages where everything closes. I don't know, just I liked it enough. But as a multiple issue arc, I think this could have been done somewhat faster. The pacing was off at times. I mean, you have like I mean 2 3 stories going on, so it's not as focused. So I would have preferred that you had like little subplots that would be that base for the following arc, and then have 2 stories going at it at the same time. um, I mean, after the 4th page where the whole Justice League part ends, here where it ends, and then we go to the next page with her back in Paradise Island, uh, dealing with the aftermath of Donna Troy's and the Amazon and a group of Amazons attacking the man. Um, at the end of the day, though, it's sort of a way of cleansing, putting to rest all the threads left by the previous run, and then finally sort of being able to move on from that, I guess. That usually happens. I have seen it quite a bit, and not just recently. I've actually read, for example, the entire Supergirl run in Adventure Comics. By the time Max Zakarsky left, before he even left the writing of Supergirl, uh, and then there will be a few other writers before giving her solo title. A lot of the stuff he introduced, some bad guys were just being, killed off left and right, so as to not have him return and give, the next guy um, leave the next guy clean slate. So I think that's what happened here in this story arc, uh, and in this issue, where they were just cleansing of the previous run. And so when the next issue of Wonder Woman comes out, issue 41, we'll have a new story arc. Some of the threads from this first arc from this team will probably follow, but all of the other stuff that was left from the Azrael run won't uh, really run the book, won't be part of the book anymore. I think would have been interesting if you had men in Paradise Island, but some people don't think, so they had to get rid of them. I'm rambling, so that's almost 40 minutes, so this has been the longest video I've done in a while. So I'll just have to say, until next time, keep smiling.